How can I maintain discipline when there are so many distractions in the world? So here's what's interesting. All of our teachings on how to live a spiritual path, the core teachings, the primary sources, in school, right? We learn about primary sources and secondary sources and tertiary sources. So primary source, scripture. Secondary source, some commentary on the scripture. Tertiary source, somebody who's only read the commentary, now they're writing a book. Okay. So when we go back to primary source for spiritual living, it's scriptures. And what's amazing is the scriptures have been talking to us about disciplining our minds long before we had smartphones, long before we had social media, long before we even had TVs, long before we had phones. I mean, it's amazing because today we think, oh my God, there's so many distractions. And yeah, there are. And the term monkey mind is not a product of the ring, bing, bleep, blip present experience that so many of us live in with our devices. This is a term that was given thousands of years ago. They were talking about how to tame the monkey mind. And so it's important to realize that the current distractions we have are just the current distractions. But the problem of the distractible mind, and maybe it used to simply get distracted by an apple hanging in a tree. Maybe it used to get distracted just by an ant crawling on the ground or the way the wind was going through the branches. But nonetheless, it was getting distracted. The fact that today I'm distracted by bleeping, blipping, blinking, ringing things is just a different form of distraction. But the teaching is the same, which is discipline and practice. It's funny because we all intuitively understand that every aspect of our body has to be trained. And so no one would come in here and raise their hand and say, okay, how can I learn to play Beethoven like in the next 3 minutes? I've never sat at a piano. I have no idea how to read music. But yeah, I got about 10 minutes or so. Can you give me kind of the fast track to Beethoven? We would all understand, well, that's ridiculous. Aside from having to have somewhat innate skill, you need to spend years and years and years learning and then practicing and doing. And maybe if you are blessed, your fingers eventually may be able to make some sound that to an untrained ear sounds like maybe it could have been played by a student of Beethoven. Nobody would walk in here and say, all right, I want to be Magic Johnson. I've got 10 minutes. Can you teach me how to play basketball like Magic Johnson? Again, we understand that whatever it is we want to learn how to do, if we want to learn how to do it well, we have to practice. Singing, whether it's our lips, our tongue, our fingers, our arms, our legs, our feet, whatever we want to do. Any skill, cooking, doesn't matter what skill we're doing. We need to practice. But interestingly, when we're talking about the mind, somehow there's this notion that there's going to be some snap your fingers and you'll get it way to discipline the mind. And there isn't. Now, the good news is, so that's the bad news. The good news is that unlike playing Beethoven or playing basketball, going within and taming the mind is actually going into the source and the truth of who you are. So it's actually going back to who you are rather than becoming something new. So it's much more actually an unlearning of all of the dysfunctional patterns that we've learned, rather than trying to learn something that's brand new, that you may or may not ever be able to do, that you may or may not have the capacity for. This is going back to the truth of who you are. So it doesn't matter what your skill set is, right? I mean, I could play basketball from now until the day I died, and I would never become Magic Johnson. I could take piano lessons from now till the day I died. I would never be able to play like Beethoven. But with the mind, because you're actually just going back to the truth of who you are, it's actually something we all can do. But the mind has gotten very out of shape. It's like if you say, okay, I have a 20 or 25 or 40 or 50 or 60-year-old child who has been spoiled rotten their entire lives. Everything they've ever wanted, they've gotten. Wherever they wanted to go, they went. Whatever they wanted to do, they did. And now, at 20, 25, 40, 50, 60, suddenly, you've got to discipline this kid. Well, it's going to take a while. Because if I've spent the last 20, 40, 50, 60 years of my mind developing patterns of whatever I want to think, I'm going to think it. It's positive, it's negative, it's true, it's false, it's spiritually uplifting, it's horrendous gossip, it's truth, it's fake news, it's judgment, it's jealousy, it's criticism, it's all, whatever I want to think, I'm going to do it. Nobody can tell me what to do. I'm going to go where I want to go. I want to land up in a brothel. I want to land up in an ice cream parlor. I want to land up on a battlefield. Wherever I want to end up, I can end up. As Pujya Swamiji always says, no tickets, no visas required. I can go wherever I want to go, do whatever I want to do. And I've spent decades doing that. And now suddenly we come in and say, all right, fun's up. We're going to bring some order here. And so, of course, there's going to be kind of an internal rebellion. Who are you and where did you come from to tell me what to do? And this is where discipline is required. I used to be a counselor when I was in college. I spent my summers as a counselor at summer camp for the youngest age group. I had 4 and 5-year-olds. And, 25, 30 of them. And first day of camp, they are all over the place. Imagine 25, 30, 4 and 5-year-olds running around. They don't know you. They don't respect you. They don't care what you say. You are not their mom. And they're going to do whatever they want to do. Slowly, gently. No beating, no spanking, no name calling, no starvation diets, no nothing but gently, lovingly, but sternly, making very clear who is in charge around here, what is acceptable behavior and what is not acceptable behavior. Slowly, you can actually even get a large group of 4 and 5-year-olds in order. And after a couple of weeks, miraculously, they actually would do what I said, and they would sit quietly, and they were quite well behaved. You have to think of the mind like that. It's not about beating it into submission. Imagine literally that you were in charge of a bunch of little kids. No, you can't beat them. No, you can't criticize them and starve them and tell them they're horrible. You can only use love and tenderness and compassion and stern discipline. And this is really how we work with the mind. Bring it back. Bring it back. Okay, I'm meditating. It wanders. Just bring it back. Not you horrible thing. Stupid, worthless. No. Not allowed. Just bring it back. Just bring it back. Ask yourself, when you find yourself talking to yourself, ask yourself, if I were a kindergarten teacher, would I get fired for saying that to a child in my class? And if so, don't say it to yourself. If it's not acceptable language to be used for a child in your care, don't say it to yourself. So we just bring it back gently. Bring it back. Bring it back. Bring it back. And whether it's in meditation or in moving through our world, mind has gone to judgment, bring it back. It's gone to jealousy, bring it back. It's gone to separation, bring it back. It's gone to past or future, bring it back. Slowly, slowly, slowly. And feel free, by the way, to use gentle systems of rewards and punishment. Do you make it a day, full day, without any judgment? Great. Give yourself a hot bath or, whatever feels like a nice, actually rejuvenating reward. Did you find that you continued to judge, you continued to get angry? All right, maybe no dessert for you tonight. No problem with that. You can use some gentle rewards and punishments if you need with the mind. That's all right. It really does function very much like a small child. And just slowly, 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 you'll get it under control. But the problem is when we let it run rampant, wherever it wants to go, then you lose control completely. And this is why discipline is required. And discipline yourself, not just the mind, discipline your actions. The more discipline you can bring in the whole life, the easier it is with the mind. So try to bring discipline to the whole life. Bring discipline to what you eat. Make some discipline about what you're eating, whether it has to do with sweets, whether it has to do, whatever it may be. If you're not vegetarian, become a vegetarian or give up a certain percentage of the meat in your diet. Discipline your food. Discipline your sleep. Maybe get up 15 minutes earlier every day. But try to bring about a full life discipline, not just so that the mind feels it's being punished. But okay, here we are, embarking on a whole new way of living. And what you'll find, interestingly, is when there is discipline in your schedule, discipline in your food, discipline in your life, it's much easier for there to be discipline in the mind. So try to bring that into every area of your life as well. And it'll happen.